And we are live. Let's go. Good evening, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard, and welcome to this evening's stream and this edition of Pauper Commander Primers, where we cover powerful Pauper Commander options in this incredible format. And today we have a real iconic control deck from this format. We're all dressed up for the original fanciness because this deck slaps. This is one of my favorites of all time. This was kind of one of the first decks I wanted to build in this format. When it was spoiled, it was just an immediate gravitas to it, and Spellslinger is just so much fun. So without further ado, let me know how you all are doing in chat. Let me know if the audio is doing well. Tell me how you're doing. We're going to get started in just a moment, but I wanted to open up the stream actually with one thing first, and that is I want to express some huge gratitude to a number of you who have chosen to financially support what we are doing here at the Common Connoisseurs. Thank you, Juan Garcia, for the sound check there. Just wanted to list a couple of names, people who've stepped forward to help with what we're doing here, and want to highlight them. So Thanatos just joined at the Tier 1 membership, at the Peasant membership, and we've got Kryn Findolin also at the Tier 1 membership, and then we have Brewbear at the Tier 3 membership who joined in, and we also have our longtime patron Noyark who joined at the Tier 3 level for the channel. And I just want to express huge gratitude to all those people. Thank you for doing what you're doing and for helping keep the lights on for this project. So we've got Robocon. I used to run Witherbloom Apprentice as a combo piece in my Yidris deck. Yeah, turns out with Chain of Smog, it's a hell of a drug. It's a great thing. I mean, sometimes he plays in Legacy. There used to be a really cool Legacy deck that actually did a transformational sideboard plan into Phoenixes, where you would basically put I think it was you would do Disturbed Burial and put three. I think that was it, where you put 3 Phoenixes into the graveyard, and then you would try the Chain of Smog combo, and then the backup was that the Phoenixes would come in for free, and you'd have a beatdown plan. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get started with this Pauper Commander primer. I dropped a link in chat for some real ignorant, hard-hitting hip-hop because I'll tell you what. Witherbloom Apprentice, the moment I realized that Witherbloom Apprentice was abbreviated to WAP, I couldn't stop seeing it. And so we got Cardi B all day up in my headphones here. And I gotta say, lyrics are chef's kiss, connoisseur level sophistication on that lyrics. So anyways, Witherbloom Apprentice, traditionally known as Wither Dad or Wither Chad, particularly when you have Opal Palace in play, because he gets big. So let's get this show started. Beginning with the body, Witherbloom Apprentice does not have impressive stats, but it is cheap, meaning it's real easily recastable. We have a lot of ramp and card draw in the deck to make sure that we're hitting our land drops and that we are playing out that we're moving ahead in our mana while also insulating our life total. It's also black, which is important to keep in mind because it means that Executioner's Capsule, Snuff Out, Doomblade, let's see what else. There's a couple of other ones. Basically, don't hit it. And as his toughness goes up and it gets past 4, then you pretty rapidly have a creature that doesn't die to the bolt effect, it doesn't die to fiery impulse, it doesn't die to frostbite, doesn't die to bolt, maybe even doesn't die to galvanic blast at a certain point. So you really want to eventually aim to getting to that 4 toughness with Opal Palace. Now, the Magecraft is why we play this, though. This could have been basically any color combination, and it would have been real interesting and playable. Obviously, the incentives are around instants, sorceries, and copying. Now, I've seen a lot of attempts at different approaches to Witherbloom. Seen people try Storm stuff, and in my experience, Control is really where this shines. We do have quite a bit of fast mana with like Culling the Weak, and we have Dark Ritual, and we have the sort of Cabal Ritual, and all these things are really powerful in 1v1, but they tend not to be very powerful in Pauper Commander because the answers are so much better than the threats. So when we do try to do something broken and degenerate, there's a really good chance that we actually just get smacked down after we do our thing. And plus, because we don't have Chain of Smog in the format, there's nothing really to turbo into that ends the game. When players are at 30 life, there's almost, I've never killed everybody in one shot in any turn where they already hadn't taken some damage. There's no way. It doesn't happen in this deck. There's no functional way to do that. So what that means is that we're constantly nickel and diming people with moments in between where we do, run pretty far, where we might have like a drain for 6 or something along those lines. So like bursts of speed that are met in between with long periods of doing very little, basically chipping away at people's life totals, insulating our own. So this is really suited for control. We're basically on our commander. We have the tool for surviving, which is to insulate our life total with life gain. And we have our win con, which is to slowly drain people out of the game. One of the core mentalities that will make you a successful Witherbloom Apprentice player is patience. There is no rush. There's no rush to the game. And I've seen a lot of people, I've watched people play in paper and online where they were trying to rush to get lots and lots of triggers, and it made them the threat, made them the problem, and ultimately no deck does a good job of 3v1ing in Pauper Commander. So you've got your win con and your tool for surviving in the command zone, and it's functioning early as well as late. Now, with the heuristics, there's a couple of different things that we can see in here that we could use. And one of the ways to copy is Storm, Cipher, and Casualty. There is, teach by example. It's not in our colors. But other than that, these are the ways that we have to copy spells in this format. I believe there's also Conspire is another one now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, you do create a copy with that, but we're not playing any Conspire cards in here. Now, the other heuristic that we want to think about is multiple casts. And that could be a heuristic focused around mana cost, keeping our curve low, for example. Or it could be, or a focus on reusing the spell multiple times. And the tendency is for smaller spells to produce less value. And so the direction that I've just taken this one for a long time is focusing more on spells that give us good 2-for-1s than spells that are 1-for-1s, because ultimately we are playing a game against multiple players, and we do need that card advantage that actually like propels us through the game and secures ourselves a really safe position in the pod. So ways that we can get some multiple casts are Flashback, Buyback, Retrace, Rebound, and Escape. So we're going to take a look at a couple of these as we go through here. Now, there are some great storm spells at common, and over time, I've shifted around with these. At first, for example, it was Sprouting Vines, Weather the Storm, Reaping the Graves. Then they printed Chatterstorm, and I experimented with that. Chatterstorm is sorcery speed, and we'll talk about that. So we don't play that card in this deck. But we do play the other ones, and for a time, Reaping the Graves wasn't in the deck either because there weren't enough creatures to actually make the deck have a target in the graveyard. You don't need to have a target for every copy. You can target the same copy over and over again. However, you need a single copy, and at times I would find myself without a copy of a creature in the graveyard and a huge storm count, not of my own making, and Reaping the Graves in hand and unable to use it. The newer iterations of Witherbloom that I've been working on have more creatures because we want to have stuff that can block in the game. We want to have things that can attack. Increasingly, Initiative and Monarch are just like really important cornerstones of the format, and being able to get in and claim those is important, as well as to provide roadblocks to aggression. Now, on the topic of Storm, let's talk about exactly how that works. In this deck, a common mistake is to try and force the Storm. And what I mean by that is producing our own Storm count. So like Abundant Harvest into Kodama's Reach, into Succumb to Temptation, into Doomblade your thing, into Weather the Storm. And the reason that's wrong is that it incentivizes the wrong kind of thinking. We don't want to be spending our spells to do damage to people. We want to be spending our spells only when we need to. So what we want to do is we want to rely on other people creating the storm count. So here's an example. Person has an Archaeomancer in play. They cast Ghostly Flicker, intending to perform a loop. Okay, say there's a Peregrine Drake in play as well. We go for the throat, targeting their creature. They counterspell it. Somebody else in the pod goes Shred Memory, okay, to exile the card from the graveyard that they're targeting. And then they go Dispel. And then on top of that, the white player at the table, and remember, I am planting a thought in your head right now. They cast Lapse of Certainty, okay? Lapse of Certainty. You should play this in your white decks simply because it's white. Nobody will ever play around it. So say this happens, we've got Storm is 6. We just let it all happen. You know, we participated a little bit. We spent a spell into this thing. The table ganged up and made sure the combo was stopped. And then end of turn, we just wait till it's all done and we cast Weather the Storm. Storm is 6. Everybody is likely tapped out or out of resources because they just put everything they had into stopping the combo player. And then we gain, in this case, it's going to be gain 6 from all of the copies. Okay, yep, and you're right, Anthony Canese, sandbagging is the way. And we'll talk a little bit about that, just to be real nuanced and careful with our language around what we mean by that. But in this particular case, we're going to gain a huge amount of life, which is so important in this format right now. Weather the Storm has never been more relevant. All the time I was playing Weather the Storm before, this card was literally just a combo piece, and right now it is like built in, I'm not going to die, which is huge. We just focus on killing the commander damage stuff, and then we can take the combat damage. It's okay. So this is the heuristic we want to think about. It doesn't mean we don't force storms sometimes. Sometimes if everybody's tapped out, we've got tons of mana, enough cheap spells to play along the way, and maybe a protection spell, then we'll do it that way, and then we'll force it. But generally only if like kills 2 players. Really want to be careful around that. Which brings us to the next little bit. And this is a pro tip. This is very important to remember. Storm is a trigger. The copies we are not immediately rewarded for the copies when we cast them. So what happens is we go Weather the Storm, and the first thing that's going to happen is that Witherbloom and Storm Trigger are going to happen simultaneously, and we stack those in whatever way we want because they're both cast triggers. When you cast the spell, copy it. When you copy an instant or a sorcery, make a trigger. Okay, so we get that Storm Trigger. A wise player will know to kill the Witherbloom Apprentice with the Storm Trigger on the stack, which means that we will get 1 trigger of Magecraft for the original copy, but we will be denied the triggers for all of the copies. And this is one of the reasons why we do not force the storm. Forcing the storm often means that there's a tendency to get kind of greedy. I know you want to get greedy. You want to get that extra little trigger, you know. Don't do it, okay? Because what's going to happen is it's going to incentivize somebody to blow you out on an important spell in your deck. You're going to lose some of that pressure that you were playing the spell for. It is a form of pressure. And so what we want to really be doing is holding up a little bit of mana and only using these storm spells when the coast is completely clear. If everybody's tapped out, we can reasonably assume it's okay. We could still lose to like a Thunderclap, for example, or a Fire Blast maybe. But, you know, generally speaking, it's going to be okay. So that's an important thing to note. The stack is important, and we want to play around that. So we always bring protection. And we have a couple of good protection spells in here. There's one other one that we'll talk about here as we move through the video. As they print more of these, we may play more of them, but ultimately, like, these are really only here in a proportion that correlates with the number of spells we have that we storm with, if that makes sense. So we have 4 protection spells at instant speed to correlate with what we have, which is technically 4 storm spells. And you'll see what the 4th one is here in a little bit. And that's important because we're really not a storm deck. We're a control deck that has a couple of finishers that allow us to close the gap. We don't play Cypher. Do we need to say anything more? These cards are just really unplayable and bad in this deck. Even though it says lose 3 life, we just aren't attacking. Cool, good talk. I get questions about these things a lot, so we're going to cover all of them. Escape. This card is also like just so bad. It only hits one player. It is a repeat trigger, and that is curious, but it's also expensive. Look at that. Look at that escape cost. 4 mana, 3 cards. We do have things we want to do with our graveyard. Okay. So we don't play this. We're not going to linger on it. Buyback is one that we do play, but let's talk about the ones that we don't. Okay. So in these lists, you're going to see that there are cards listed that won't be all of the cards in that category. Okay. So this isn't all the buyback cards necessarily. This is just showing you the ones that we do play and the ones that people have asked me about in the past, thinking that buyback was just that good. Disturbed Burial is one that I think you could play in a more creature-heavy build of Witherbloom Apprentice. But do keep in mind it is 5 mana, so it is an expensive loop, and it's not really impacting the board. However, the things that we do want to bring back, whether it's Vicious Battle Rager, Thorn of the Black Rose, Slum Reaper, Chain Devil, Flashback Marauder, these are all really high-quality cards, Gary. And so it is probably worth it, but it would take a slightly different build of the deck. And we won't talk about it too much in this particular iteration, but there is a build of Witherbloom Apprentice that would be more on board, where you play things like Okiba Reckoner Raid and you play Vampire Spawn type stuff, where basically you're getting the Magecraft trigger on a body without it being an instant or a sorcery because it's draining everybody for 2. Diregraph Scavenger, that type of stuff. Leaning more into like the deck is functioning without the commander. The other ones here just suck. But I did tell you that there was a storm spell that wasn't a storm spell, and that's Sprout Swarm. And that's because a lot of times when we have a ton of mana, we can make enough tokens that we can start to tap all the tokens to consume our mana. And it's reusable. So we go end step, we have all of our mana up, say we didn't have to interact, then we go crazy, right? Sprout Swarm, somebody goes to kill our commander, we go Tameo safekeeping, nobody else has anything, Sprout Swarm, Sprout Swarm, Sprout Swarm, Sprout Swarm, untap, Sprout Swarm, Sprout Swarm, Sprout Swarm, Sprout Swarm, and you just go absolutely crazy. Sprout Swarm in a lot of ways is actually a heavier storm spell than the other ones. It's just that it's very mana intensive. It'll consume all your mana. But Sprout Swarm also makes bodies. There was a pretty legendary moment actually where I missed a line on Sprout Swarm during the Playing with Power video where Convoke and Buyback work in really weird ways, but I had a Marauding Blight Priest and a Witherbloom Apprentice, and I had completely tapped out, and somebody was killing my my Witherbloom on the stack, and I had Sprout Swarm in hand, and I needed to deal 1 more damage to kill the other player, 2 other players, and I didn't realize that you can actually convoke your creatures to cast this for free. Okay, so this is a free cast if you have 2 creatures in play, and one of them is Witherbloom Apprentice, because you can pay for the colored mana. So anyways, Evankar's Justice is the other one. This is a way to kill people. This is also a way to stymie the pressure. It's a great board lock tool. If you have 11 mana, you can Evankar's Justice for 4, which is great. But we can just win the game with this very slowly. And it's a great tool against the new gut decks that are out there. Okay, Rebound is another one. The only one we're playing here is Trumpeting Herd. Trumpeting Herd is very great rate. It's draining twice. And for 4 mana, we're getting 6 powers across 2 bodies. We really don't need to explain this one too much. Moving on, we don't really play any of the Retrace cards. Siphon Life is something that you could play if you wanted to. However, generally speaking, in my experience, we want the lands. Okay, these lands are not just here to use up as a resource, and draining life isn't so important that we would, go down on cards that heavily. We usually just want to keep playing our lands. I wouldn't criticize a person for playing Siphon Mind, though, so do as you wish. This card is reasonable. Yeah. The next ones here, we have the Flashback spells. And you'll see that we're playing a lot of these. They're pretty high quality. There are a lot more Flashback spells in black and green. These are the ones that I think are most relevant. And you can see here that I've said the same thing with Rotten Reunion and with Coffin Purge. I don't play these cards because the deck already has a ton of graveyard hate just built into its spells. Shred Memory is graveyard hate when you need it. We've got Bajuka Bog, we've got Crop Rotation, we've got Golgari Rot Farm to pick up the Bajuka Bog. There's just a ton of ways. We got Return to Nature. All of these things deal with graveyards already, and so dedicating a whole slot to a card that doesn't do anything but graveyards is not good enough, in my opinion. However, if you are in a heavy combo meta with a lot of graveyard-based combos, I would highly recommend considering both of these because both of them kind of dumpster combo decks that involve the graveyard. They're very powerful. The ability to flash it back is amazing. Rotten Reunion has the added benefit of insulating you against edicts, which is huge because you make bodies. And the bodies can also feed your edicts. So if you want to take that 2/2 Decayed token and turn it into a 4/2 Slum Reaper, you can do that. Path of the Festival is 2 casts. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to get that trigger for the 3 types of basics, which is a real bummer. I wish you could do it with wastes. That would be so dang cool. But yeah, so this is just 2 casts on 1. Shadow Beast Sighting is just a 4 mana 4/4. This is basically Chainer's Edict in reverse. It's an on-rate spell that has another spell attached to it for 7. Moment's Peace is amazing right now as a fog, and Moan of the Unhallowed making 4 bodies across 11 mana is great. And thank you, Jin Shooting Star, for the glasses. Turning the corner. Okay, so let's talk about one of the key play patterns in Witherbloom, and that is that we want to establish some sort of repeat value on a empty or near empty board. That's going to mean any one of these 6 spells. We want to have the Monarch, the Initiative, and then we want to follow it up with some form of clearing the board, and that could be a Pestilence, or it could be a Crypt Rats, or it could be just killing the only threat on the board, because sometimes the board is clear for other reasons. Somebody else clears the board, maybe. And then Flashback Marauder is another way that we do that, because Flashback Marauder can take so many threats out of play. That is a key play pattern of the deck. We just want to sit on the Monarch and or the Initiative and just ride it to victory. That is like a major win condition of the deck. And even once you start doing that, it's going to be a while before you win. So you kind of strap in and get ready for the ride. Let's talk a little bit about Undercity. Undercity is something that the initiative is something that I've added to this deck. The initiative is great in this deck. The Throne of the Dead 3 is going to be inconsistent. You are often going to miss, but the other modes are just that good. Just that good. Guaranteeing land drops, making Witherbloom into a 4/4 is very relevant for when you Pestilence or you Evankar's Justice or you Eyeblight's Massacre. Goading creatures, keeping them from attacking you is great too. Drawing cards is obviously something we love, and occasionally we can make a body. There is always the chance too that we just flip Gary into play. There are other, Monarch and Initiative cards in this deck, and they're all good hits off the throne. So when I say it's inconsistent, it's just that you shouldn't expect that you're always going to hit something off Throne of the Dead 3. You may not. Now, it's not always going to work out the way we want it to. And if we, there are reasons why sometimes you would take another path, and that would involve going down the right side. The right side tends not to be the best side in terms of the Lost Well. And the Lost Well commits you, when we're thinking about Forge versus Lost Well, the Forge is just so much stronger generally. However, combo decks will scry, goad, draw. So they'll go basically diagonally across from Lost Well, Arena, Archives. In our case, generally speaking, we're trying to go Forge, Arena into Archives on the left side. But occasionally, if there is reason, we may sometimes pick the 4/1. If we need a blocker, or if we're about to deploy a Pestilence and we need the initiative of the Monarch and somebody else has it, we go get it, we play the Pestilence, then we lock it down. So those are kind of the heuristics we would use there. Now, when it comes to closing out the game, the Storm spells are one of the ways we do that. But the other way that we can do it is with Opal Palace. Okay. And Opal Palace was not always in the deck. And the moment it became part of the deck, I started to regularly produce 8/8 Witherbloom Apprentices, and it was ridiculous. I can't tell you guys that I think I've probably won 25% of my games with Witherbloom because of Opal Palace. And Opal Palace is a fantastic reason to run Cleansing Wildfire, Befoul, Monvuli Acid Moss, Fissure, Wrecking Ball. Like, play land destruction in your decks, not just for Opal Palace, but for Gretchen, Satyr Enchanter, and any other deck that wants to untap a land that's got like 4 auras on it. Like, that shit needs to go, right? Opal Palace is among them. This card does so much over the course of the game. It is insane. Okay, Opal Palace is nuts. I didn't put it up here, but Study Hall, its mirror image, which says you scry for every time you've cast it from the command zone, is equally crazy. Okay, there are games where you know they've killed your commander 7 times. You recast it and you scry 8. Scry 8 is also going to end the game. Scry 8 means you take all the bad stuff, you put it away, and you put all of the good stuff right there. And there have been games where I've scried 8 and it was just like, just like read the bones, draw into, abundant harvest, into, weather the storm, and it was just like game's over right then and there. Or you stack initiative and monarch on top. I mean, it's just bonkers. And you have so much mana that it's like, I do remember a particular game where I scried deep and I found basically monarch and initiative, put them both on top, put the monarch into play, drew off of Bonder's Ornament, and then played the initiative. And it was just nuts. I mean, it's just like you're going to get so much value out of it. And Opal Palace and Study Hall do something very important, which is that they punish your opponents for interacting with your commanders. And when your commander is cheap, Opal Palace becomes really scary. It becomes this thing where they just like, I just recast my commander. And you're like, okay, and I kill it. And you're like, I just recast my commander. And it's bigger every time. And then the way that we tie the whole room together, the rug that does it all, is Whisper Silk Cloak. Whisper Silk Cloak is one of the reasons why sometimes we can be just belligerent with our storm. We attach it to our Witherbloom or Wither Chad Apprentice, as it is in this case, and then we just have an unblockable, targetable, massive threat that basically drains life with impunity. So super important. And we'll get to your questions and comments here as we finish up the presentation. This is also a lands deck. So as much as it's an Opal Palace deck in a lot of ways, which is kind of a bizarre way to think about it, but you should think about it that way. We really do want to get Opal Palace. It's one of the best cards in the whole format. Just like, hear me out, Opal Palace and Study Hall go in so many decks. Like your Ghost decks, put Opal Palace in it. You're going to cast your Ghosts a couple of times. You're going to cast Tormod a couple of times. You're going to have a lot of mana, and your threats are just going to become big. And guess what? One of them is basically unblockable. So just do it. Just play these cards. They're really good. There's only a few decks out there that really don't want them. This is a crop rotation deck. Crop rotation is just like an iconically insane card in so many formats. Like Legacy is probably where it sees the most power. I think probably CDH to a degree as well. But it just has so many hits. It is recursion with Mortuary Mire and Witch's Cottage and Haunted Fengraf, which means that we can set up those locks where we begin to repeat loop like a Flashback Marauder, or we can bring back Initiative or the Monarch, and we can do all of this, during our end step, right? End step before we draw, we Witch's Cottage, put the Monarch back on top or the Initiative back on top. Boom, good to go. Put the Edict back on top. It's also Bojuka Bog at instant speed. And of course, all of these cards can be reused with the exception of Haunted Fengraf with Golgari Rot Farm. So end of turn, somebody goes, somebody gets a graveyard thing going. Maybe it's like Tortex, and we go crop rotation, pick up our Bojuka Bog with Golgari Rot Farm, play it out on our turn, and you're good to go. We also have Colony Garden. If there's a key turn where somebody's playing an Edict and we don't want to lose to that, then we can make plant tokens. The plant token is also just good alongside our edicts, so we just have it in the deck. Gingerbread Cabin has saved me on multiple occasions. Somebody thinks they have lethal, you crop rotation, this thing comes into play, you make a food token, you crack the food token, you're alive. And that's one of the things that you'll learn about Witherbloom Apprentice the more you play it, is that the deck is so resilient. Like, you are not going to be the threat at the table, and when somebody's finally pressuring you and stuff, you have all these tools in the deck to grind really hard. And some of the most satisfying wins of my entire life were with Witherbloom Apprentice, surviving at 1 life, pulling some clutch nonsense. There's so many lines, it's insane. And then these two cards are great. Desert right now, you should really consider playing Desert in your decks. Gut is a very powerful deck right now, and Desert mows down their 4/1s over and over and over again. Now, the Inspiring Leader either can't be in play or the commander needs to be dead, but we can orchestrate that. We've got plenty of kill spells and plenty of sweepers. So if they're swinging with the 4/1s, Desert allow us to pick them off at end of combat. It's also a combat trick if you think about it that way. If we need to trade with a 3/3, we can block with a Witherbloom Apprentice, let the damage grow through, end of combat, we Desert and we kill it. Quicksand can take out X2s. That Gut doesn't need to swing at us for us to kill them with Quicksand. Okay, this is a really good thing to keep in mind. So lots of powerful tech there. Dimir Houseguard is another card that's just really powerful in this deck because it has so many hits, and not all of them are listed here. Okay, Pestilence. So and really, I only play tutors in decks when they have complete coverage of effects. So we have sweepers, we have edicts, we have targeted removal, and actually, yeah, yep, that's right. Because this one doesn't have Befoul in it. It has Monvuli Acid Moss. So yeah, we have sweepers, edict, removal. We have land destruction. We have multiple creature bodies if we just need to get on the board. We have draw spells. We have monarch, and we have initiative. That's 7 different effects that we can get just with the Dimir Houseguard, and we're a big mana deck. It also just has evasion on a resilient black creature. And so we can use this to poke in and get the initiative in the monarch. Not common, but it is a thing we can do. Shred Memory is the other tutor in the deck. This one does find Weather the Storm, Sprout Swarm. But again, look at the coverage on this. It hits Feed the Swarm, Return to Nature for a Naturalize effect. It hits Night Soil for Graveyard Hate, as well as Return to Nature for Graveyard Hate. It has 2 of our Storm spells. It has Moment's Peace for a Fog. It has Miracle's Edict for Edicts. It has Kumbaj Witches, another great piece of tech against Gut. You play this on turn 2. You ping the Gut, and you look at the player and you say, how would you like to kill that Gut with me? And they go, sure, sounds good. And then the Gut never, ever, ever, ever stays alive. Excellent. Grasp of Darkness, Victim of Night, Go for the Throat are only a few examples of the 2 mana removal spells we have. And then we just have raw card draw with Sign and Blood and Night's Whisper. So that is what we've got here. So this is the end of the Witherbloom Apprentice, primer here. And one sec, just getting my marker here so I can come back and do edits on this later on. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that primer today. We're not done because I've got a little bonus for you. For those of you who stuck around, we've got a little bonus. Some of you will know that I've been playing another deck lately, and that is Thrall Parasite. Thrall Parasite was put on Twitter by Brad Drac V from the Pauper Pod, or the PDH Pod, pardon me. And I looked at it and I was like, why don't I know about this card? Why have I overlooked this? It just wasn't in my zeitgeist. I didn't know. And I should have, because this card is subjectively better than Witherbloom Apprentice. I am looking for a new name. I like Taxes and Death and Taxes, sure. But I think we could come up with something better. Something, vampires, tax collector, Catholic Church. I don't know. You come up with something. Please help me. And Anthony Canese, yes, we do tend to slam Witherbloom turn 2. Thrall Parasite, turn 1, baby. What's up, Jonathan? Good to have you here. So let's start. Thrall Parasite is a 1/1 for 1. We cast this on turn 1 every single game. The only time we don't is if we have Opal Palace in hand. You don't do it with. You can do it with Study Hall too if you want to get that Scry 1. But generally speaking, it's worth it to wait a turn for the Opal Palace if you have it in play. If you have it in hand. But turn 1 every game is a far cry from the frequently turn 3 that we have Witherbloom, because Witherbloom Apprentice as a 2-color deck that is reliant on green to ramp, but reliant on black for everything else. It's like mostly a black deck that needs green to ramp. It oftentimes plays tap lands that kind of slow it down. So turn 3 Witherbloom Apprentice is not unheard of, and that's a little bit slow. Okay, and you can't get around it. You need to be able to cast your spells, and there are complex mana requirements in the deck. Double black, lots of double black. So when I saw this, it just became very clear to me that there was something really exciting here. And the consistency of this is just on par with Passageway Seer. Turn 3 Passageway Seer, 95% of the time. I think the math comes out to somewhere around 90. But if you're willing to mulligan, you're totally fine. 2 lands and a mana rock, and you're off to the races. Annoying Worm. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. Thrall Parasite is turn 1 just basically every game, which means that we immediately can start to extort off of our rocks. Like you can even go turn 1 Thrall Parasite, turn 2 Springleaf Drum, extort, and be immediately extorting right off the bat. It's more fragile than Passageway Seer, but the difference between a 1/1 and a 2/2 is it's negligible. It doesn't. If it's a 3/3, that's where it starts to matter. If it's a 4/4 or 4 toughness, then it really does start to matter. It is a black card, so it's not going to die certain black removal spells, but we can move on from there. It does have this little bit of flavor text on it to pay 2 life and remove a counter from a non-land permanent. And there are some funny interactions with this, where you can destroy people's Everflowing Chalice, basically, and make it tap for 0 mana. You can do that. It's not good. You can also take a player who's got an Unexpected Fangs, and you can remove it from their creature. So you can do that to a ghost player. You can take their Unexpected Fangs lifelink counter away. One of the other interactions in the deck too is with Okiba Gang or Okiba Reckoner Raid, where with sagas you can continue to remove counters from the sagas to basically continue the drain. And what that looks like is I pay 2 life every turn, and everybody else loses 1. Or sorry, you pay 2, you gain 1, everybody loses 1 off of the Reckoner Raid. And so that's another way to look at it. And yeah, Noyark, is this a Stax deck? No. No. It's a control deck, thank you. Noyark knows, he's in on the joke. Stax isn't real in Pauper Commander right now, I'm sorry. I just like, there are no Stax cards other than these cards that just don't actually, they're not like good cards, right? Stax refers to smokestacks from the back in the old days, which involved heavy resource denial that was symmetrical. It evolved over time to mean things like Thalia and Rule of Law and Ghostly Prison and Eidolon of Rhetoric and things like that. And we have Eidolon of Rhetoric, but look, it's like it's a mono white deck. You struggle with card advantage. It basically slows down the game and makes it so that combo players win. So yeah, just anyways, wanted to point that out. Thank you, Noyark, for distracting me. Get me on a little rant there. So extort is nuts, is as Jin Shooting Star said, and that's because it's any spell. We have no restrictions on what we can extort. And in Witherbloom Apprentice, that is really one of the problems. It's like you want to play mana rocks because the mana rocks generate recursive repeat value. Like Bonder's Ornament acts kind of like a 4 mana monarch every turn. And we want those, but they also don't trigger the Witherbloom Apprentice. And you can only go so deep on that before you kind of start to miss all those triggers for your own purposes for life gain. We do play a lot of draw spells that hurt us, and we need to mitigate that. And Witherbloom Apprentice stays at or around 25, 30 life for a lot of the game. Thrall Parasite, easily 40 plus life on like turn 4, lots. So extort's good. Extort's real good. The ramp package in this deck is just better. Yeah, Anthony Cadiz, no null rods here. That's exactly right. But yeah, extort, in my personal opinion, and you can see from the meme here, every time I play an extort card, the thought that comes to mind is, wow, this feels like a better Witherbloom Apprentice, and wow, I just have it in my deck. It's like a brain worm that, it's like extort good, and the mana does matter. The fact that you have to pay mana for it does matter, and black pips early on do matter. It's not free, But look, you're gaining 3 life every time. Um, yeah, just extort's good. Extort's good. You want it, I don't generally like to compare decks because frequently the comparison is inaccurate and not appropriate. In this case, we have 2 black commanders that play basically the same spells. There's a couple of key differences, small differences. They're not even key. Like, you know, Monvuli Acid Moss becomes Befoul, Moment's Peace becomes Darkness. You don't play the tutors except for Dimir. You still play Dimir Houseguard. You play all the same sweepers. You play all the same draw spells. It's like they're basically the same deck in a lot of ways. It's just that the mana is way better in Thrall Parasite. The ramp is all artifacts. It's way better. And it's just more straightforward. You just cast all your spells and you drain. So very smooth brain. Drake knows. Drake knows. And then we've got another thing on the body here, just a repeat thing. And then we've got Dimir Houseguard wanted to talk about the tutor targets here. We've got similar stuff. There's more than just this, but I wanted to give you an idea of how I think about the tutor spells. Every time you play a tutor, you want to make sure that it has numerous good targets in it so that it's never dead, basically. And there's a lot of good hits. A lot of good hits. And that, folks, is the end of this most epic Pauper Commander Primer edition. I hope you all enjoyed this today. I want to go through some of the questions that you all were fielding, some of the comments. Sorry I wasn't able to get to those before. As these recordings are live when I'm doing them, I want to make sure that I'm making sure that the recording is good. I just find it easier to record live when people are here because I'm talking to you all instead of talking to my camera. I just like, some people have figured that skill out and I have not yet. So having you all here is great. Juan Garcia saying best PDH content on YouTube so far. Well, my dude, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that compliment. There's a lot of really good stuff out there too. So thanks for the comment. And I really appreciate that compliment. I thank you. Some other stuff I would recommend checking out. The PDH Pod makes great stuff with Lawbert and Brad Drakv's team over there. They also have a great podcast on Spotify and all other audio streaming services. I recommend checking out Puzzlebox, a new up-and-coming streamer who also makes great stuff. And then, you know, we have Islane from the Possibility Storm doing Pauper Commander content, which has been great. He's been dipping into that. And increasingly, there's more and more attention on the format from people in the EDH and CEDH scene, which is great. I was even just talking to Rebel Sun on YouTube today, which was fun about it. So yeah. Jonathan says, "Truth, this community is so lucky." Oh, it's really sweet of you guys. Thank you. All making me smile. It's been a good week. Hydrate. This talking is thirsty business. Okay, want to get to a couple of comments here. The only player, Jin Shooting Star, said sandbagging is the way earlier on, and I wanted to address that. We don't always need to be the ones to interact with things. It's not always our problem. So just keep in mind that killing everything in play all the time isn't necessarily like what you need to do. And especially with Thrall Parasite, you don't necessarily want everybody out of the, you don't want people out of the game early because you want to continue to gain life off of your extort, which relies on 3 players in play. So Jin Shooting Star says the only players who doubt of Opal Palace are the ones who didn't play with the card. Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. I mean, this card doesn't even see play in Tatiova, a deck that loses its commander all the time. I mean, imagine if Tatiova just came in as like a 9/9 someday. And just like, all right, like, now they're a Voltron deck. Cool. And they have ways to tutor for it because they have crop rotation and all this other stuff. They have Expedition Map to tutor for it. It's a good idea. Study Hall is also crazy in that deck. There's a Tatiova deck hiding out there in the ether that doesn't even play combo. You just have a commander that draws cards and gains life and gets big. Some other comments we had was Jonathan saying annoying worm. Annoying worm. That's a good name. I like this. It is annoying. I mean, Thrall Parasite's not going to let you combo, and Thrall Parasite's going to be hard to kill. But Thrall Parasite isn't also like killing you that quickly. Like, I think this is one of the other reasons I like Thrall Parasite is that even though we're gaining lots of life, and sometimes people get it in their head that that's like a huge problem, when in fact, if there's like a Voltron player at the deck, it doesn't matter how much life I've gained, right? It's like their problem to deal with me. Um, I kill very, very slowly. You are in for an absolute grind with Thrall Parasite. This deck, you can credit this deck to making games long. Same with Witherbloom Apprentice, because that's what it does. You know, you're just slow sinking feeling for everybody. And I like Thrall Parasite a lot right now, in part because it is just implicitly less threatening. Like this doesn't, it's less explosive. It doesn't have the storm spells. It it just it just drains slowly. We don't even drain with every spell. So I really like the way this positions us as the pod, where we are built to possum. And I know some people really don't like this. I just gotta say, get over it. The reality is it's a multiplayer game, and you gotta play the psychological game. If you are the big problem at the table, you know what happens? In a format where the answers are all better than the threats, everybody gangs up and they stop you, and they sink you, and they might just kill you. You know, if they're the kind of deck that doesn't have answers outside of the combat step, they'll just kill you. And so playing a deck that explicitly does things very slowly with the intention of flying under the radar, of grinding value over the late game. This is the psychology of multiplayer kicking in. It's okay. It's okay. Some people don't think it's okay, but that's all right. That's their problem. Anthony says, I have to order what I need for this deck. Dude. Yes. Yes. I love it. Yep. We got Robocon saying, I recently discovered the greatness of Opal Palace. Yeah. Frankly, I wish that I had room in Thrall Parasite, and I'll be looking for room in Thrall Parasite for Opal Palace, for Expedition Map. I may actually cut a mana rock to put that in here because it's such an important part of the game plan, and we don't really have good ways of finding it in the deck. We just have to draw cards. So it'll be our form of crop rotation. Yeah, make room, Thanatos says. I love it. Very assertive. Jonathan says, you definitely sold me on Opal Palace. Yeah. And Study Hall. We're talking about Opal Palace, but like Study Hall is functionally going to perform a lot of that same level of value, especially in a control deck where the scry could even be better than the draw, than the counters sometimes. I just think that having a body that grows over time and eventually becomes big enough to defend while also attack is really good. Jonathan also says Slinking Siphon. Oh my god. He's like a little noodle. He just German guns. I was about to say German Gonzalez, but I bet it's Hermon. Hermon Gonzalez saying great content so far. Thank you for the list you've been sharing with us, Hermon. It's thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that positive feedback. It's really I put a lot of work into these videos to bring you all content that you'll find enjoyable. Get dressed in my fun stuff here and hang out with you all in chat, and it just feels great when people share that they're appreciating what I'm making. Yeah. And speaking of which, I just want to give another shout out and a big thanks to our financial supporters. We've had some people who've just become members of the channel recently. You can see Thanatos there as that little badge next to his name, starting out there at the tier 1 membership as a peasant. We've got some great names. We've got peasant, commoner. What's the other one? It goes peasant, pauper, commoner, and then connoisseur is our tier 4. We currently have it through YouTube. And by all means, if you are interested in supporting me, supporting this content, and you have the means to do it, that's a great way to start. We are at some point going to be moving away from YouTube membership. We will have it as an option just so that people have that on-ramp right away. But it turns out that YouTube takes a big cut of what we do. It's 45%. And that means I have to work 45% harder, essentially. I have to do 45% more videos. They have to be 45% better. 45% more work to get the same outcome, to be through YouTube membership. And so we're going to be going back to Patreon, which only takes 8%, which is a much more reasonable cut. You can see YouTube is really leveraging their monopoly of this digital video space. They are the biggest source of digital media content in the world. And so we're happy to have the option, but we are going to ask, just invite people who do end up financially supporting us to eventually take it to Patreon. And on Patreon, we don't have it set up just yet. We used to have a Patreon, and then we thought, oh, let's do the YouTube thing. So we closed that down, did the YouTube thing, and then YouTube is not forthright about how much they take. And it's only when you actually get your bill at the end and you're like, oh, I got $5.50 of the $10 that was donated, that you realize just kind of like what the exchange is. And they don't have that stated anywhere clearly. So we're going to be going back to Patreon. We're also going to have a Discord membership for those of you who maybe you don't like either of them and you want to just do it through the Discord server. That will probably be at a $3, $10, and $20 level. We just want to make sure we hit a lot of price points so that people can support at the price that they're at. So some of the people that have done this, we've got Thanatos, renewed their subscription or started their subscription this month. We were also supported by Crin Findelan, who's been a really active member of the community as well. And then the other two were Brew Bear, coming in at the tier 2 level, which is great. He's a good friend of mine. And then, of course, Noyark, our first patron. I want to mention one other thing. We won't talk too much more about Patreon or anything like that, but I am offering to the first 10 people who go $10 and above, and there's 2 of those now, so there's only 8 left, that, oh, look at that. Hey, welcome, Hermon. Glad to have you here. Oh, I love that. I get the little notifications set up and everything. Ooh, it's exciting to see things work. Let's see, what was I saying? For the next 8 people, because 2 of them have already been taken, I will design you a custom animated Discord profile icon. Okay, for the first 10 people who subscribe at a $10 amount or more, I will make a custom one for you. Okay, and let me show you what these look like. I think they're pretty sick. Okay, I think they're pretty sick. And if you want one of these, you let me know. And we'll get you signed up and we'll go at it that way. I recently made one for Brew Bear for Zach, and you'll see here, this one here, it won't look like this when you put it in your Discord, but Brew Bear is an enjoyer of the Urson species, and we made this here for him. The cool thing is that when you put this into Discord, all you'll see is a little glow around the edge because it's a circular icon. So you'll have your image and it'll flash every time somebody hovers over your name, which is really cool. So that's a good example of that. Of course, I've got my own, which you all have seen before on Discord. Juan Garcia says, CK is lately out of stock on the commons you include in your decks. I believe it's your fault that the lack of cards they have on sale. You might be right, but I will say, I haven't bought Magic cards in a long time. I've been rather broke. I had a long stretch of unemployment where I was looking for work. I'm a highly skilled individual. I have a bachelor's degree and I had a career before the COVID pandemic, but I just haven't had any money. So I haven't actually been buying any cards. And frankly, that unemployment is part of the reason that I had time to work on this channel. So there might be certain commons on Card Kingdom that they don't have many of because I have bought them in the past. I won't exactly say which ones those are. I'm not stock trading or anything, but there are certain cards out there that will not stay cheap, that are cheap, and I've bought them in the past. I used to be the person responsible for stealing all of the Fairy Macabres, all of the Dust to Dusts, all of the relics. You know, just like I would drive around town and I would just go to all the 4 shops and I would say, I need these 10 cards, and they would have like, 1 or 2 maybe or 0, and that's because I'll show you why. It wasn't just because I was hoarding them. It was because I have some battle boxes. So this right here is what was called the Community Battle Box, the Pauper Community Battle Box. And I'll bring this in a little bit closer so you can see they're all labeled with the names of 60 card Pauper decks. And each one of these is a tuned, optimized, meta relevant deck in Pauper. And then what we did is we printed out these library cards for them. And you can see there's a QR code at the top, and if you scan that, it would take you to a Moxfield deck list that had the sideboard updated in it and the names of the people that had rented the deck. This is all free. So this is a donation, just a free resource that we had for the community. And we had, I think at one point, like 45 of these. Here's the other one. And then I've got 3 Pauper Commander battle boxes as well. And so that community battle box had to be fed somehow, and that meant that I just needed literally all of the Fairy Macabres and all of the Dust to Dust and, these iconic sideboard cards. Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, stuff like that too. And if you have any interest or any, questions about how to build your own local Pauper or Pauper Commander scene, I have a ton of experience of that. I spent 7 years here in my local community building a group of people who regularly showed up with like 30 to 40 people every Monday for 60 card Pauper. And then we would play till midnight or 1 o'clock at the shop. They would keep it open late for us. We'd have drinks and we'd play Pauper Commander. And it was great. It was a good time. So anyways, we kind of wandered a little off topic here. We're just kind of hanging out and chilling. If you guys have any questions for me, I'm around. Just going to drink water and hang out. Kick it with you guys. Thanatos says, TCG player is always better for Card Kingdom for this format. It can be, yeah. I will say, though, that I love when people support Card Kingdom. Card Kingdom is nearby. I live in Bellingham, which is north of Seattle. And Seattle, so it's close by. And I just love to see a regional business doing well. Card Kingdom is also incredibly thorough with their quality rating. So even cards that are only rated like good are in remarkably great condition. I tend to buy budget because, look, this is a budget format and I don't really care if my cards are damaged. In fact, oh yeah, I gotta show you guys this. Let's see if I can find it. I just got a great copy of Go for the Throat for my Thrall Parasite deck. See if I can find it here. And by the way, oh yeah, well, that's actually, keep that hidden. Oh, I'm stoked actually. I just found my four copies of original Arabian Nights Deserts. They're not cheap anymore. I bought these for 75 cents. They're pretty scuffed. But all of when I took apart my Witherbloom Apprentice, I turned it into Thrall Parasite, and so I've got all the fancy cards like Night Feeder's Visitation, and we got that shiny Doomblade. I used to like to make my decks really fancy, at least for Pauper standards. Let's see, where is this card? It's Go for the Throat. Nope, not there. It's a pretty scuffed copy, but it looks really cool actually. It's some of the foiling came off on the sides, and it made it end up looking really cool. Yeah, there we go. I think this would probably be considered pretty damaged. You can see the edges there are pretty scuffed, but because the card itself has like a white interior and like it's like black on white kind of thing. I don't know. I like it. I like it more than if it weren't damaged. So Thanatos says TCG player is almost better, but they don't change prices ever unless the price goes up. Oh, interesting. And I think their base price is always 25 cents as well. Whereas like a lot of times commons can be a lot less if you get them through TCG. I just find that TCG player is tough because you have to like assemble your, I don't know, it's just tedious. It's just tedious. So maybe I'm just like simpleton that way and I just want to just have a one-stop shop. I also have like some good shops in town that have like amazing stock, and so I usually just go there to support local businesses, as I'm sure you care about their Thanatos as well. For those of you who don't know, Thanatos runs or is manager at Long Island, what? Let Oh man, I'm forgetting now. In New York. Shop in New York, but I can't remember the name now. Currently, foil borderless Force of Will is almost 300 on Card Kingdom and 130 on TCG. Legendary Realms games. That's right. Yep. Legendary Realms games. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a bit. 300 on Card Kingdom. Yeah. You pay a premium for sure. Hey, we got that. Look at that. Santiago Fernando. Hey, buenas. Welcome. Glad to have you, my friend. Let me know where you're from. I don't speak Spanish very well. Mi español es muy mal. But I did spend a year living in Costa Rica in 2019 at a um, small sustainability education center called the Rancho Mastatal, and had a really life-changing experience there. Hola, ¿cómo está? Okay. I know that there's a massive Brazilian and Argentinian Pauper community, which makes a lot of sense. Just having lived in certain parts of Latin America, and knowing that even I struggle to afford Magic, a lot of people do, and in some places where there's even less money, something like Pauper would almost be like the only way to play. So I'm doing great, Santiago. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining the channel. Glad to have you playing here. And for those of you who are new to this content, if you haven't already, make sure to go into the description and join the Tryhards. It is a great community of people to get games in on Spell Table and to participate in this lively community discussion. Spoiler season is always a lot of fun because we've got a really well organized thing. Let me actually show folks what our Discord server looks like here. Let's pull it up here. We got Dor M. Great content, man. Thanks for sharing. Hey, I appreciate you being here, Dor. It's good to have you, and thanks for your comment. Appreciate it. So this right here is our Discord server right here, and we got the nice little banner. Oh, I do want to call out to Kryn Findolin recently boosted our server a couple of times. If you have any boosts, if you're on Nitro and you like what we're doing enough that you want to support what we're doing, we are 4 boosts away from getting to our let's see, 4 boosts away from getting to level 3. And level 3, we actually get some really cool unlocks. We get an animated banner icon, server banner, which I do a lot of animation, so that goes there. Files can be larger. We get better audio quality. We get more emojis and stickers, which I'm adding all the time. And we get this custom, when we send people invites to the server, right? We get a custom little card that comes with it too. So if you have Nitro boosts and you're not using them, consider what we're doing here. It doesn't pay us, it just unlocks better stuff for the server, but we love that too. So let's see, catching up, we've got Jin Shooting Star. Hola amigos, saludos for Brazil. Absolutely. Yeah, Jin's great. If you haven't checked out Jin Shooting Star's content as well on YouTube, he's making CEDH content. And at some point, I think we might maybe even do some Pauper Commander stuff, which would be really exciting. So he's been a great supporter of the channel, constantly resharing and reposting our stuff. Recently had a great conversation with an esteemed member of the CEDH community, which I won't spoil anything big, but exciting stuff there. And Santiago Fernando says, I'm from Uruguay. Oh, wonderful. I've never been to Uruguay, but I would love to. Juan Garcia says, I took your Torwauki list before knowing you and named the deck in Moxfield Torwauki, following by Papa Pauper idea. Oh, I'm so sorry to your opponents. Torwauki. It's a real dirty deck. Let's go take a peek here for control enjoyers. If you're looking for another great control deck, Torwauki, man, This shit slaps. It's so much fun. It is such a power trip. Torwauki is just like, oh, it feels so good. Every spell just becomes like exactly what you wanted. It's like, do I want to kill something? I'm gaining life. Do I need to just kill somebody? Door M says, I'm in love with the format. Mostly playing Pauper Commander lately. It's so much fun. Dude, I mean, I think it's quite likely I'll not really play any other Magic. I haven't really played any other Magic other than commons only formats for 7 years. It's all Pauper. You know, it's like this format has everything I need, and it will continue to satisfy that need. It's interactive. It's extraordinarily creative. You play cards and you consider cards and you look for cards that you would never consider in other formats. And it's not because they're bad necessarily. And I want to quote Findhorn Brownie on this. It's not because they're bad. It's because the rest of Magic has been power crept into oblivion. The cards were fine. You know, like you look at a card like Skyscanner, and it looks a lot more like cards were originally designed by Richard Garfield. And I'm no like originalist. I don't, think that Magic should necessarily be how it was originally designed. You know, like when they first designed it, Ancestral Recall was reasonable, and it's like, okay, well, no, but but what I am saying is that like the game has diversified into a lot of new areas. The modern master sets, like Jin Shooting Star pointed out, have single-handedly turned, modern into a rapidly rotating format. It wasn't that it wasn't a rotating format before. I think that's important to keep in mind. But there were a lot of like, borderline good decks that you could play, and it was fine. But I think that Modern Masters has really launched a lot of formats into a wild place, and it's not bad necessarily, right? Like the power level is just higher everywhere. And what's amazing about Pauper Commander is that this fire design, where they're pushing the power of all these cards, it's perfect for us. It is totally and entirely reasonable to print powerful pushed commons because they won't break the format. They're still commons. Like Monastery Swiftspear, great card. Is it good in Pauper? It's great. Does it make burn great? It is. Yep. And yet it's still in a format where the answers are better than the threats. It's perfectly fine. Cards like Jewel Thief are oftentimes on my lips because Jewel Thief kind of like, in a lot of ways, it kind of defined, what it is to be a common. This card doesn't really see a lot of play, ironically, but like the amount of text on this card is indicative of like what we should expect in the future from commons, and that is such an exciting thing. This format will always have a steady stream of amazing commanders and powerful new cards in the 99. We're gonna get so much redundancy. It's like they just printed Vraska's Jewel Thief was insane and limited that. Vraska's Fall is a great example of this. Vraska, come on, Vraska's Fall. Okay, like this card is just instant speed flashback Marauder that just has like this random upside to it that maybe matters in a certain deck, right? But like this is the kind of power creep I'm completely comfortable with. Like go for the throat. Like easy downshift, great card in our format, doesn't break anything. It's perfectly fine, right? I'm going to go out on a limb. I had a very vibrant conversation with some people on Twitter today about this. Let's downshift Condemn. Let's do it. Let's make white have good removal. It's important. White will never get board wipes, so white will never get an important part of its color pie that every other color gets good parts of its color pie, and this one doesn't. It doesn't get good removal, and it won't ever get board wipes, okay? It already has resurrection stuff. It has protection out the yin-yang. It doesn't have good removal. And on top of that, I should have just typed the whole thing. Okay, we're looking for Path to Exile. Downshift Path to Exile. Instant speed, removal effect, fairly unconditional. It's going to give your opponent something in return. This is like an arcane denial type thing. This would be amazing for Pauper, okay? Because white gets Ephemerate, and it gets like an initiative card, okay? And it gets Prismatic Strands, and it gets Battle Screech and some other stuff, but it's so pigeonholed. It's so pigeonholed. And you know what? Call me crazy. Downshift Swords to Plowshares. Hot take. Y'all came for it. I'm wearing the douchebag glasses. Swords to Plowshares would be fine. And you know what? The little secret that a lot of people don't know is that this card is kind of already common rarity. Let's see if we can find the card. Jumpstart is what we're looking for here. This one here. Nope, where is it? I'll turn my music down a little bit here. Kind of just got kind of crazy. Out loud. There we go. Turn that down. Okay. Let's find it here. Is this Jumpstart? Yeah, Jumpstart Historic Horizons. A lot of people don't know this, but this is a common. And it's not legal in Pauper or in Pauper Commander because Pauper's rules are printed in paper or released on MTGO at common. This was an arena card, okay? And it was part of it was like part of the conjuring mechanic. But it is printed at common. It was a mistake. They didn't intend it to do it this way, but they did. So yeah, this does not count. And actually, fun story about this. This is the first time that they made a distinction between MTGO and Arena. See, it was the first card, and it was very relevant to Pauper because I looked this up and I was like, this should technically be legal. And it was like a kind of an oh shit moment because that's another opportunity for the paper and the online scenes to be divided, which was always a bad thing prior to unification. Okay, so we got some comments here. Got Bladecraft Aspirant. Yep, that's a great example here. Let's take a look at that one. This is the Bladecraft Blade Aspirant. Yeah, Blade Graft. This is a great example of like what fire design looks like these days. Like 3-mana evasive 2/3 that like is so good. I mean, like in the dark, I have a new deck built around. Let's pull it up here. It's called Oxida Finisher. Oxida Finisher is like a new card that we just got. That's like pretty busted. It's affinity for equipment. Yeah, Monkey Finisher. Yeah, Harambe's Revenge. The deck is called Guerrilla Tactics. This is like the new Sailor's Bane. Just want to throw that out there. Some of the like hands that I deal out for myself with this deck are really stupid. Where you're like turn 3 Oxida Finisher, and then your Oxida Finisher is like never more than double red, and it's like 7/5 trample. It's like, woo! In colors that give you double strike. Right? Amazing. So in this deck, that Aspirant, that Bladegraft Aspirant, is like you play it out and then you free equip it with like Bone Saw. You free equip it with like like a bunch of short swords. You free equip it with Trailblazer's Torch and like Bone Splitter, all for free because of the targeted ability. But it also just makes them all free because you're playing 39 1-mana equipments. Some other things here. Juan Garcia says, I just hope that PDH or that Pauper Commander goes under the radar of Wizards of the Coast so that they don't push it like all the other formats. I think Juan, that it'll be okay because if they do find it, well, so they know it exists and they manage it. But you have to remember that they only design cards for draft and for modern a little bit now, and Commander. but the cards are all accidents when they come into our format. And in some ways that's the beauty of it. But there's other things I would like them to print, like actually banning the bridges from 60 card and then reprinting indestructible tapped dual lands would be amazing for the format because wildfire decks are a really good influence. They're Tron is like a good deck again, and Tron is a cancer. Okay, like Urza lands suck. Okay, they're the worst. And Wildfire has like built-in protection against that while also having like a cool card advantage engine that plays lots of colors. It's very dynamic, built around red card advantage. It's a good thing to have. And then it would help curtail affinity, which is an important thing because the deck it's like affinity and burn right now. It's too narrow. So I'm not worried, one, about the format ever getting damaged because of its proximity to wizards. I think that the common fire design stuff is always going to continue to print more powerful stuff, but it won't ever break the format. I would put money on that. I would put a lot of money on that. We've got Jin saying, in my opinion, these days of commons and uncommons are more exciting than the rares and mythics. Dude, I fully agree. Fully agree. Yeah. And you know what? If you think about it, okay, when they print like a standard legal set, you might have like 2 really good cards for other formats, like modern in 60 card. You might have some good commander cards, okay? Like there's going to be a sprinkling of them. But to compare, new Phyrexia, Phyrexia All Will Be One, had 45 cards in it that I identified that had like good homes in the format. And a lot of them were like really game changing. Like Brunner Battlehammer got sauced by this format. Just completely sauced. There's just a lot of really good stuff. Black got like a mass edict at instant speed. It got another good targeted kill spell, which was like functionally a lot better. So you get a lot, and we got 5 new really good competitive Pauper commanders. We got the let's take a look here at the ones that I was looking at. So rarity, uncommon, type creature, 01 or not 01. It's a F. Let's see, set 1. Yeah. So we got Charforger was one for the set that was really good. We got Cephalopod Sentry, and if you don't know, you don't know. We got some exciting stuff coming for Let's Build. Let's take a look at this hot fire right here. This is going to be the next episode of Let's Build. And yes, those are extended bone splitters in a Heliod's Pilgrim hand. Squid Games, baby. Squid Games. It's coming. It's coming. So yeah, we got that. We got going back here. So we had those. Oh, that's Blazing Crescendo. That's not what we're looking for. Also a really good card. We got what are the other 3? We got the Oxida Finisher, of course, Monkey, and then we got Serum Core Chimera, which nobody is talking about yet. This card is good. It's very good. And then we got the Tainted Overseer, or Tainted Observer, sorry, which is going to be really cracked. So anyways, Thantos says downshifting any of those would ruin limited. Yeah, so there is that. But the thing is that you wouldn't downshift them in limited. You'd put them in like a Modern Horizons, Modern Masters type thing where all of the stuff is like insanely powerful. That's the way you would do it. Not if you downshift in a non-draftable set, or you downshift in a set that's just powerful anyways, right? Jin says, I don't know. Commander changed forever after Commander Legends, and the power level went through the roof over the last 3 years. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And I would say Pauper Commander's power level went through the roof too, with both Commander Legends sets. But that being said, none of it like broke the format. It's all very reasonable. It's very on par with everything that was around it. And the thing is like Pauper Commander is very self-regulating. Like when you become a problem at the table, there's a really good chance that the table is going to take care of you, right? You see this happen with Sailor's Bane all the time. It's like, yeah, you've got like a 9/9 ward 4, and you can't attack because you're just going to die. So it's very self-containing because the interaction is so good. So I'm okay. Like push the power level, it's fine. And like how powerful can it really get at common? Like there has to be distinction between mythics and rares and commons, and so you can't just print board wipes on commons, and it doesn't work in draft. So we kind of know what we're gonna get, and what we're gonna get is more of the same effects, more of the same effects that we already get, which is great. And then and then occasionally we'll get some cool Commander Legends set. They'll have another busted mechanic like Initiative, and it'll be cool. It'll be awesome. Derpy Panda 22 says, I feel that commanders that don't offer any card advantage aren't worth it. I would challenge that. It depends on the deck. Card advantage is also a term that it's a bit narrow. Drawing cards is not the only way to win games. You are predisposed to win games when you have more cards than your opponent. Although sometimes when you look over and somebody's like, how many cards do you have in hand? And you're like 7. And everyone looks around and they're like, we have like 1 and 2 cards in hand. Like, what the fuck? That's also like not necessarily a good thing. But that being said, commanders that offer an ETB or a cast trigger or some form of repeat advantage, resource advantage is what I would point to. I don't think it needs to draw cards. There are a lot of really good commanders that don't draw cards, and I'll show you one of them. Like Sailor's Bane doesn't draw cards, but it's a 2-mana 7/7 ward 4, and it never gets more expensive. Hamza, right? This thing makes all of your stuff cost 0 or 1. And I've seen turns where people have deployed way too much power into play off of a card like this. It just really depends. So there are certain decks where you want card advantage in the command zone. The other thing is that there's just a lot of card advantage in every color now. And so just like build your decks with lots of card advantage in it, and you won't be reliant on your command zone to produce it. It's one of the problems that Tatiova has, is like a lot of the deck is built around like, okay, it's like all about land drops and you get them. But like Tatiova is 5 mana, you know? So just keep that in mind. I think there's lots of ways to look at it. I would look at it from resource advantage standpoint. Let me show you another good example, okay? Thanatos and I have been working on Rilsa Rail a lot, okay? And let's look at Latchkey Fairy, okay? Latchkey Fairy is essentially a 3-mana, 3/1 flyer that draws a card on ETB when you pay the Prowl. And this is like everything that we want it to be, okay? And it's card advantage, right? But look at this card. Thrumming Bird, okay? We like invasive creatures in that deck. This proliferates. This is not card advantage, but we have Forge counters. We have Throne of the Dead 3 counters in the deck. There's even weird stuff like Everflowing Chalice has counters. And this card, if it's making our team bigger, is a form of resource advantage. It's reoccurring buff that continues to buff up our team even when it's small. So I think that's another way to look at it too. Oh my god, I got a lot of stuff to catch up in here. Let's see. Santos says, I find that's not in the spirit of Commander. Yeah, you're building a deck and shoving a commander in there. I mean, it's okay to have a good stuff commander, and it's particularly if you're in colors that don't have card advantage. If you're in like mono white, then you should have some form of card advantage in there, or resource advantage, like Great Desert Prospector. Great Desert Prospector is another deck where you're building around like resource advantage because you are making all these Power Stone tokens, and you're using them for cards that are mana sinks. So you don't need to have a lot of cards. You just need to have like 1 or 2 of them, and then they're really good. Jin Shooting Star says you don't need more cards if your commander is a combo piece, or the big answer. Sure. Yep, absolutely. Like Sailor's Bane. Or like Oxida Finisher, right? Like the carded, if you think about it, it is actually a form of card advantage when your commander doesn't cost anything more from the command zone. So if Oxida Finisher comes out like 4 times during the game and it was only ever 2 mana, that's really awesome. That's great, huge efficiency. Or Rilsa. I will say though, cards with initiative in the command zone, that is something that's really good. Derpy says you need to get your combo pieces to win. Well, you're right. You're right. But that's only in combo decks. Every other deck out there has a different plan, right? I think that might be more applicable to Commander or to CEDH, where where everybody has a combo in their deck, right? And everybody's like looking to find it, and you need to be able to find it. Pauper Commander, there are lots of combo list decks, lots of decks that just don't have any combo, and it's just Commander. It's just Commander damage or just combat damage, just beats. Yeah, Jin Shooting Star player removal also exists. Yep, you just delete them. Delete them before they can stop you. That Oxida finisher is probably going to do that to some players. Yeah, and it depends on the colors. You're right, Derpy. That's exactly it. You're not wrong to say that you should be looking for commanders with card advantage. I think that's a great heuristic, but I wouldn't limit yourself to it. You know, you can build that card advantage into other parts of your deck. And yes, it is a slower format. Average game ends on turn 10. That number is coming down a little bit more slowly now, but so yeah, you're it's not the pod racing that you get in CDH. Not all CDH games are that way. You definitely get slower, staxier games, but even like Winota is a stack deck, right? Like it's still going to end the game relatively quickly in a lot of ways. Thanatos says it's why Golos was banned and why he's too good. You didn't build around him. You just built the deck and used him. Yeah, that makes sense. Juan Garcia says, I loved to see a Flame Right primer. What is Flame Right? Interesting. Is there something here I'm missing about this card, perhaps? The thing that's concerning is it says sack a creature with defender, and the only thing that makes defenders is the character. It is a sack outlet, but it's on a tap. It's a rather small body. Boros isn't usually my favorite colors to build around because it does struggle in some ways with card advantage, as just like general stuff in the deck. Yeah, that's interesting. Definitely worth looking into. I mean, one damage target creature or player right now is relevant with gut decks running around, but I think you could probably find a better Boros commander for competitive. And I will just say, just to for those of you who are new here, I am always looking at it from the competitive angle. So if you are looking at casual stuff, don't take any of this the wrong way. Optimization is what brings me joy in Pauper, and trying to play the most powerful interactions. That just, it turns my crank. It moistens my loins. It's what I like to do. So yeah, casual, totally fine. It's just a matter of me kind of looking at it from that angle, and my brain kind of breaks a little bit when I try to do casual stuff because it's just all my pedigree is in competitive Magic. Derpy says in a competitive format, that's wild, but I get it totally. Yeah, no. I think it's one of the really cool things, just to like harp on this again. Like Pauper Commander is such a cool format in part because the delta between casual and competitive decks is increasingly small. The difference, when I say delta, it's the difference between casual and competitive is getting small. Let me think of a good example of that. I mean, Oxida Finisher in some ways, like is an example of a deck that you might have seen in like a casual setting at one point. Cardur Doom Scourge used to be kind of a joke until it wasn't. Until people had their whole board goaded and they couldn't attack the player with the Monarch or the Initiative, and they started, like people are sweeping the board and stuff. Trying to think of other decks that might have been kind of casual that are considered casual that have legs. Quintorius definitely has legs these days. I don't have a lot of casual decks, to be honest, so it's kind of tough to say. Something like Venomthrope, maybe. Venomthrope is one where people maybe built like janky Simic Voltron, like not the greatest colors for it. Like white is kind of better in that way, but blue is good for protection, and so is green, so it's fine. But this deck in this more of like competitive sense is like Psionic Gift, Hermetic Study, Viridian Longbow. You're the fun police. You just ping things with Death Touch on your creature that can't be interacted with. and you laugh. Evil. So yeah, that's a good point to carry through. And I want to mention too, it's why I'm not actually putting competitive in any of my language on my videos. I'm not calling it competitive Pauper Commander anymore. I don't like using the acronyms either, by the way. You won't see me use PDH or PEDH or CPDH or CPEDH. None of that stuff means anything to anybody who's new to the game. And I spend a lot of time educating new Magic players about Magic. And so I prefer to use Pauper Commander because it's very descriptive. And the competitive part is increasingly like not a huge differentiator. It's about 25%, I would say, maybe 25-30% of your deck. And it's like competitive chops are going to be decided by, card choices, which is great because that means that, like generally speaking, you're not going to have people being like, why are you playing this bad card? It's like you have a good reason for it, right? Real Surreal is a deck full of cards that you're just people maybe look at and they're just like, why? Why are these cards in here? But they're really good in the deck, and they're not, they're not bad cards. Where's Rilsa? Where are you, Rilsa? There we go. Black Widow, bad bish. Yeah, like Fairy Seer, fairly low impact in a lot of cases. Okay, so let's see what else we got. Other comments. You guys are super active today. I really love that. Thanks for your participation and glad you're enjoying it here. Jin Shooting Star says it's a shame this isn't Rakdos to fuel Cranial. Did you mean for Oxida finisher? Because if so, you're totally right. Like Rakdos, if Oxida finisher had been Rakdos, that would have been. I would play that deck a lot if it was Rakdos. Oh, the Flame Right. Yeah, I think the Defender clause is kind of what kills it because it's the only thing that makes defenders that you want to sacrifice. Every other defender is going to be like a full card, and it's only 1 damage, and it's a tap ability. There's kind of some sad stuff there. Derpy Panda says Dargo is my jam. Yeah, Dargo's great. The Oxida finisher deck has been just like making me wonder, why I would ever play Dargo. And okay, it's kind of a meme. I mean, like Dargo is a great deck, and you should totally play Dargo related decks like Dargo Essior and other Dargo variants. It's a very powerful commander. But like the beauty of Oxida is that your cost is never your cost is never increasing, and you never need to feed it. Like Dargo, you have to play a whole section of your deck just for food. And in this deck, the food doesn't go away, eternally reduces the cost of your commander, and it's not nothing. Like a Quarter Shield, 0 mana. This is literally, I don't know, is there a card that's a 0 mana? Well, yeah, this is a Moxen. This is a Moxen, except it makes colorless, right? And when we give our finisher Vigilance, shit gets real. I mean, it becomes very hard to hit back. When your opponent has like a 14 power Monkey that's Vigilant, First Strike, Trample, all that stuff. So like these things are good cards anyways. So I think this Oxida deck is very real. We got to go through and do some play tests on this here. Okay, so some other stuff here. We've got if it was Rakdos, holy moly, for sure. Finn with the new set. Yep, Finn has also got some good new stuff. I still don't know that Finn is exactly what I would want to play. I think that there's the problem with that deck is similar to Rasad, except the Rasad has way more protection than Finn does. Rasad, Sword Coast Sailor is is white and blue, so you've literally got counter spells in white protection, which is better than green protection. And Finn is only in green. It has terrible card advantage. If you kill the Finn, your Death Touchers don't do Infect, which means that they literally wasted your whole combat step. And Infect scares people. So there's like a lot of things that struggle there. But Finn did get all the toxic cards. It did get more Death Touchers. So there's good stuff there. I just wouldn't be my pick for a deck. Not unreasonable, but it wouldn't be my pick. Derpy says, Derpy Panda. Just call you Panda. Yeah, he's going to be gas. I would put him in a Winding Constrictor deck. Yeah, Winding Constrictor. The other one, too, is Molder. No, not Molder Hulk. Oh, rarity, uncommon, type creature, ID equals Golgari, O counters, O double. I think the double, whenever you put a counter, maybe the double part. Yeah, Corpse Jack Menace. This is the one you probably want to look at if you're doing the Winding Constrictor stuff, is you could play this instead. You put twice the number of +1/+1 counters instead of +1 counter. So instead of just getting, 3 when you were going to get 2, or 5 when you were going to get 4, you're going to get twice that many. And it's just a black 4/4. Black 4/4s just don't die to very much. And it's really scary looking. Like, this art is really cool, I think. Yeah, super cool. What were we just talking about here? Oh yeah, going through the questions here. What do you think about Dragon Soul Knight? It's not my choice of 5-color commander. First Strike is pretty relevant right now if you think about it in the context of like Dargo decks, or sorry, in case of gut decks. You can line up double block with a first strike creature and a non-first strike creature, and then you can first strike the menace creatures down. I don't think that ability is terribly reasonable to activate, and unfortunately, it only pumps it up to be 7 power. If it was 8, it might be more worth looking into, but it's a very expensive activation. Very expensive. Another way to look at this is you could just say this is just another 5-color commander, but I think that there's better choices when you look at it from that angle. I think the best 5-color commander that there is Sphinx of the Guild Pact. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's an artifact. You can't target it most of the time. It's a 5/5 flyer, and it enables you to play like a lot of other really stupid cards, like Rush of Knowledge, just draw 7. Yeah, I actually have some really fun. If it would be the closest I'd ever get to casual. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to do some casual stuff someday. I just need a deck that would actually like speak to me, and none of it does. I like interaction. I like being able to stop people when they're doing broken things. So, because I don't like to lose to broken things, I'll try and stop it, right? So, a deck that I've got here is called Run the Jewels, and this is a Sphinx of the Guild Pact deck. And it's just a super creature heavy deck with all the initiative, all the monarch in it, just all of it. I just didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, monarch, rarity common, oh, initiative, and just click, 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 click. And then we just play a bunch of good removal, bunch of powerful card advantage, bunch of ramp. Yeah. Just 5-color good stuff. But like, this still isn't casual. It's like, this is a very real win condition, which looks something like cranial plating on Sphinx. Although there's no cranial plating here. Am I talking out my ass? Where's cranial plating? This version does not have cranial plating. That's weird. Maybe it's the old one that I had. This is the other one, History Channel. I love this name. Yeah, cranial plating is in this one. This is the other one that I have got. It's similar, but just less extreme. Oh yeah, Jin says, yeah, you create bodies to fuel the cranial plating. Yep, for sure. Is Shinto banned? So Panda, there's only 2 cards on the ban list, and that is Mystic Study and Rhystic Remora. Shinto. Why is this what came up? Why when I'm looking up Shinto and this is what's coming up? I'm confused. Oh my god. I just figured out the riddle. Do you see this? Wow. Vanish into. So anything that is vanish or banish into. Wow. That's pretty funny. Scryfall's too smart. I wanted to take you all through a spin on this Oxida deck. So no, that is not. That is called. That is a different name. That is Shuko. Yeah, Shuko is uncommon. 0 mana equip for those interested. It's a 1 mana, so you tutor it with Trinket Mage. 0 mana equip. It allows you to do broken things with like Cold Forge Master and some other stuff. So yeah, not an uncommon. But you know what? This could be a common someday. Totally. Totally could be a common. That would be a sweet common too. That would be very, very good in certain decks. Very, very good in certain decks. Thanatos says, I just tried to order the Oxida deck and the shipping was like $70. Dude, that's stupid. Oxida Finisher is like a pretty cheap deck too. Let me see. Yeah, dude, this is the cheapest Pauper Commander deck I've ever built. $17. Oh my god. Oh, prices like these, am I right? You can fit a whole family in this bad boy. It's free real estate, am I right? Okay, enough memery. So this is a hand. Kind of we want 2 lands and a bunch of artifact rocks. This is not the hand that we're looking for. This is good. This is good. Okay, check this out, chat. This is so sick. This deck is so sick. Please go play this deck. Put some numbers up for me, okay? I'm too busy doing mono black stuff, and I need you, Chad Monkey enjoyers, to come out and avenge Harambe for me, okay? So the way this is gonna look is we're gonna go. This is so stupid, guys. This deck that Brewbear and I made is really silly. So we're gonna go ceremonial knife. Oh, it's getting so much worse. Look at this. Go scimitar into prying blade. If we get land, oh my god. Okay, we go. I think we want to go. I want to be able. So okay, so what we could do is we could play goggles and barbed batterfist, or actually the better thing to do, the more efficient thing to do, is we go Gavalier into barbed batterfist. At this point, we are at like a turn 4 Oxida Finisher. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the funny thing is, the cool thing is, the 1 mana artifacts are now free. So we go. Oh, this only attaches to artificers. This might not stay in the deck. I probably just swap this out for another 1 mana, 1 to equip. 1 mana, 1 to equip is like the most important thing. So yeah, we play this out. There's nothing to attach it to. But this is free because it brought us to 7 artifacts or equipments and Oxida. Oxida on turn 4, right? And then next turn we just go, like swap this over to the Goblin Gavalier, and then we swing for 14 or something. Yeah, if we just went like 1, 2, equip, and we'll just put them side by side here so that you can see all the stuff that'll be on them. You could do 1, 1 equip, and then 1, 2 scimitar, like that, and that already pumps it up to. And you could actually do more. It's unfortunate we don't have another land, but you swing. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, swing for 7, swing for 7. We're gonna make a treasure token. Probably dies in combat. Yeah, Thanatos says, but good luck getting at that price. Yeah, you're not wrong. But like, this is so sick. We just go Champion of the Flame. We go Adventuring Gear, right? And like, what's so insane about this is like, if they kill Oxida, he's just like comes back for 2 mana. He just comes back for Dor M says that's violent. That's real violent. Like this turn right here, like how big can Champion of the Flame get? Right? We go. Yeah, we just play both of these, right? So like say Gavalier and Oxida died. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we don't exactly have enough to do that. We don't have exactly enough. But yeah, you can see this is dope. And what's cool is like, unlike mana rocks, these actually do something. These mana rocks, these mocks, moxen that we have here that permanently reduce the cost of our commander, also just like can be applied to anything. You should also note too, Spike Shot Goblin is pretty gross in this deck. Load it up and just repeatedly kill people's stuff or attack them. Give it vigilance, attack, and then kill their stuff. Let's try another hand here. Yeah, this is great. You draw. We're gonna cycle this Forgotten Cave. So we go turn 1, Vanquisher's Axe into Spider Silk Net. That's such a good draw. So I think what we do is we go 1, 2 into Cloak of the Bat, and then the next turn I think we'll go Bone Saw. It's so raw, dude. So we're on turn 3. We go Bonesaw for free, or this one for 1, this one for free. Oxida on turn 3. Turn 3, 7/5 trample. Cool. And then yeah, we're gonna go land into probably go Explorer Scope. 1, 2 suited up with just the Vanquisher's Axe. And then we go to combat. We go trigger. And what does it say? If it's a land card, put it in the battlefield tap. So we get a Bloodfire Infusion. So we just keep that on top. And then end of turn, we cycle this to draw it. We draw Dwarven Mine. Cool. We get a dwarf. In this case here, we would load this up with the Bloodfire Infusion. And the reason for that is that it's like a oubliette protection, aura protection. And then I think we would just go Cloak of the Bat on the dwarf. Give it haste. Swing, swing, trigger. True Faith Sensor. Sick. Very sick indeed. Oh man, with just a mountain, this would be really cool. It's this hand is actually like surprisingly playable. Like, okay, like never punished, right? So we go Spider Silk Cloak, Leonin Scimitar, draw for turn, a Quarter Shield. That's not right. That's not right. So we go Golem Skin into Vanquisher's Axe, and then we go turn 3 Oxida. Look at that, 2 turn 3s in a row with this big boy. And then you know what we do? Turn 3. Yeah, turn 4 we kill somebody. So turn 3 we do this, and we're gonna equip it with the Scimitar. Like that. So we equip it with Scimitar, and then next turn we go 1, 2, Yeah, we just assault strobe and kill somebody. Yeah. And we would probably load it up. You know, we probably put the golem skin gauntlets on, and then we kill somebody. Blazing torch. I imagine Oxida dies. So let's just say he dies. So we play out all this stuff, and then we wait a turn, and then we just recast him. And this time we cast him, and then we equip with the Cloak of the Bat and the Scimitar, like this. 8 power, swing for 8 with haste, flying. Quarter shield. Like, look at these. Each one of these is just like insurance against us getting hated out. And eventually, when we get a Golem Skin Gauntlet on this thing, you know, how big does that get? Like, do we know? Like, if we put all of these on here, yeah, this deck is real. Yeah, super powerful for sure. Yeah, like how much is this right here? If we have, that's Leonin Scimitar is +1/+1. This right here is 1. This is each equipment attached. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's only +1/+0, but we'll just ignore that. And then +1, 2. That's 15 power. Flying, trample, haste. And it's like they kill it, and you're just like, okay, like tap out, cast it again. You know, like let's do it again. Do it again. Do it again. We gotta find a swap out for that, for the Artificer's Goggles. And the way we do that is we're gonna go type equipment CMC equals apostrophe. Sure. So what's another 1 mana to play, 1 mana to equip that we could play? I think I have all of them, admittedly. Oh, Leonin Bola. I would rather play that. Yeah. Juan Garcia says, ape out. Oh, I should have brought my, I've got a big ape plushie. Would have been great for this moment right now. 1 mana, 1, 1, 1. 1 mana, 1, 1. Yeah, I think I'm playing all the 1 mana to play and 1 mana to equip cards. Okay, so, and the alternative would be to play Utility Knife, which gives 1 less toughness. Doesn't really matter, but it equips right away. So, and then it's 3 to equip every time, which is kind of a lot for +1/+1. Because like that's one of the things you'll notice is that the deck doesn't have like a ton of lands. It's like 30 lands, 32 maybe. I think we did the math on it. Brew Bear and I got all mathy on this one. Yeah, 32. It could be the 30 is correct. Do you have the 1/1 goblin that gains haste when it's equipped? Is this not legal? Yep, that would be sweet though. God, that would be good. That would be a really sweet downshift, actually. I would love that. Hear me, Watsy. Hear my prayer. Also, a fun little resource I want to share with you all. I have a downshift wish list that I'm gonna link to you all in chat here. I've been maintaining this for 7 years on different sources. That is the downshift wish list, and it's got all the cards I would like to see downshifted or that I think could be downshifted, as well as all the ones that I got right. Monastery Swiftspear was on that list. But we got work to do though. Gravecrawler, gotta get Gravecrawler. Flame Blade Adept. WotC, please. Make Cycling Storm great again. Oh man, this would be so cool in 60 card. Just like Street Wraiths and Edge of Autumn and good. Derpy says, oof, I was thinking about Flame Blade Charger. It's not legal. Sorry. Yep, we got you covered. No worries. So yeah, check out this list and you can see some of the fun stuff. All the edicts, I want all those. I want all the aristocrats effects. The top of the list though, and this would get me playing 60 card Pauper again, is Gem Palm Incinerator and Goblin Ringleader. And just like make legacy goblins real in Pauper. We're so close, right? We have Goblin Matron, Skirk Prospector, you know, all the little sacrificer dudes. We have Mogwar Marshal, you know. It would just be awesome if we also had Gem Palm Incinerator and Goblin Ringleader. Corpse Knight. Yep. Corpse Knight would be really sweet. Yeah, this would probably be a combo piece in some decks too. It would be really cool. It'd be great. Judge's Familiar would be sweet. Hedron Crab, you know, bring some more like mill tools. We're pretty close. We don't have enough of them yet. I think we would need like 3 crabs. 3 different crabs so that you could run 12 crab. Yeah. I haven't played a lot of 60 card because I play Pauper Commander. That's it. That's it. And also the shop that I was running events for. Ultimately decided that they preferred my labor free. And so I quit running events after I asked them to pay me. And they were not able to do that at the time or didn't prioritize it. And so I have not been running 60 card events, unfortunately. It's been kind of sad because we were running huge events and it was a really vibrant, rich community, and it's ultimately their loss. But yeah, there's some cool stuff here. Side Leopard would be sweet. Not exactly necessarily competitive, you know, landfall related stuff, but you can do some broken stuff with crop rotation and like fetch lands and things like that with these cool landfall cards. Soulscar Mage would be great. With those bounce birds, Corpse Knight would be good. Bounce birds. Oh yeah, Glint Hawk and Coarse Skyfisher. Yeah, that would be really cool. Get to reuse the ETBs, like a white-black ETB value deck. That's kind of cool, mid-range. Blood Rage Brawler would be so sick for this format. A 2-mana 4/3 that discards a card on ETB. Get all that madness shit going. Like early game, you just discard a card, maybe a card with flashback or something like that, or you know, or maybe you put like a perfect card to put in there that if you weren't casting something would be like an Underworld Charger, or yeah, Underworld Charger, the 2-mana 3/1 that has to attack every turn, and you escape it for 4, and it comes in with a +1/+1 counter. Blood Rage Brawler, pitch that. I've got a great, I've got some great Madness decks that that would love Blood Rage Brawler. Stitcher Supplier would be super cool in all the Tortex decks, which don't really have a chance in hell right now. Just too slow. Zombie Trailblazer I thought would always be a cool one because it allows you to turn off Tron lands. Like tap zombies and turn them into swamps. Like, okay, you can float your mana, but now your Tron's offline. Hilarious. And okay, actually some really good ones that I think would be awesome for 60 card is Vampire Nighthawk and Gifted Aetherborn. I think that it's actually, there's 3 of them. It's Gifted Aetherborn, Vampire Nighthawk, and it's on the Edict creatures here. Is why is it not listed under here? Huh. Oh, it's not listed here. Weird. Well, let's get Gifted. Oh, you know, there it is. Gatekeeper of Malakir. I think this would be such a cool downshift for both Pauper and Pauper Commander, because Mono Black is such a cool deck, but it's bad. It's not been good for a really long time. Fairies have always kind of run it over in a lot of ways too, because you just counter all their stuff and got good removal and sweepers, but ultimately just kind of falls short of like any like real significant synergy. Gatekeeper of Malakir would go a long way to helping that. Gifted Aetherborn, just getting like more is Gifted Aetherborn not in here? I keep talking about it like it's in here, and it's, oh, it is. Okay, yeah. Gifted Aetherborn, which is just 2 mana, 2/3 Death Touch Lifelink. This would be so staple in black decks in Pauper and in Pauper Commander. And it has a real deck building limitation too. You have to build around a mostly black deck, if not just mono. And then the last one is Vampire Nighthawk, which is kind of its evasive cousin. I think this would, you add those three and mono black's good to go. Death Touch creatures for affinity, lifelinking creatures for burn, which is everywhere right now, and then you get like a good predator to burn with a deck that can gain life early and gain life late, because it's hard to fix. It's hard to fix those decks. You know, they're just really good and efficient, and a deck like this could do it. Could definitely do it. Yeah, these would be cool, and they're also reasonable. You could reasonably downshift these. Like I could anticipate these being downshifted, and it would be fine in draft. Because like again, there's a real cost to playing like monocolor, right? Or cube or something like that. Strangleroot Geist would be another one that would be really great way to bring mono green Stompy back. You do this one and experiment one together, and you've got yourself like a very resilient aggro deck that could really push damage while not losing to the sweepers. Fiery Cannonade and Breath Weapon really like dunked on mono on just like green Stompy, and both of those cards would be so cool. While also being kind of balanced, because you can't go Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary into Strangleroot Geist, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, nice hasty green threat that comes back. Fanatic of Mogus, giving you a devotion headshot. Munitions Expert's another one. I wouldn't expect this one necessarily to get downshifted, but it could. Yeah, Thanatos, both of them, right? Nighthawk and Gifted Aetherborn would be amazing Rulsa cards. One, because the Death Touch interaction with Viridian Longbow, the lifelink is very relevant. The evasion on Nighthawk is great. Yeah, Death Touch is good. There's some other ones on here. I really think Reanimator is awesome. I don't know that it's necessarily good for the format, but I think that a really cool way to do it that would be very balanced to bring in another reanimation effect would be Life Death, where you actually have like a way to bring something back with a punish. You'd lose 8, off of a Ulamog's Crusher. That's a lot. It's like you could just lose because of that. So it's it's fine. And there's great removal in the format. So like Reanimator can never be like a meta-defining deck in Pauper, because Graveyard Hate is excellent, counterspells are excellent, removal is excellent, the edicts are excellent. It's all good. But I think this would be the slam dunk. You just downshift Zombify. This is an embarrassment that we don't have this at common. We have Late to Dinner, we have Resurrection, we have Last Breath, we have Mist Moon Griffin, we have False Defeat, Breath of Life. It's just like so much in white and nothing but Exhume in black. There is a 5 mana one, Summon Undead, but it's 5 mana. Come on, just give us Zombify. This is the real Resurrection color. People want zombies, not angels. Okay. Phyrexian Delver would be cool too. This is another one that like you lose life to its mana cost. It gives you a body too, though, and I think that would be really relevant, preventing against edicts and things. Juan Garcia says, I think you can hit with First Strike and then ninjutsu on a Rilsa deck. I was thinking about that watching the primer on her. Really? Yeah. Wait. That's so fucked up. Wait. Thanatos, did you just hear that? You see that? Wait, what? That's dirty, dude. Yeah, color me impressed. I did not think about that interaction. Are we sure about that? Let's see. So remove an unblocked creature you control. I mean, unblocked. Why can't you? So you've got an unblocked creature. It doesn't say that. Return an unblocked creature you control to your hand. Put this card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. But if the attack step is broken up by first strike, I don't know. I'm in out of my depth, to be honest. It sounds like it works, right? Because you do first strike first, and then if it's unblocked, you ninjutsu it. Why wouldn't that work? I want that to be real. I want that to be true so badly, Juan. I hope it is. Yeah, it doesn't say that it doesn't say that it's attached to damage, Thanatos. It just says an unblocked. Specifically, return an unblocked attacker you control. So first strike, and then it's unblocked. I'm not sure how this works. So when they say no blockers, no. You can do ninjutsu at the end of combat too. You can do ninjutsu at the end of combat too. First strike, damage, ninjutsu, normal damage. Are you? I'm reading this and I'm not sure I'm seeing what you're saying. I mean, I'm open to being wrong about this. I hadn't even thought about this. I'm reading it and it sounds like, yeah, you do your first strike damage. Well, damage doesn't go on the stack. So Panda, you can't do it that way where you can't place the damage on the stack and then ninjutsu it. But the question is, can you hit with first strike? But yeah, like there's no step necessarily in between there, right? I don't know if there's any point like in there where you have priority. Thanatos, if you can get that judge to just tell us how that works, I'd be really curious. My only concern is that I don't think that there's a step in between where you get to do anything about that. Priority is on the attacker, I guess. I don't know about that. You can do all sorts of weird shit with ninjutsu because there's an end of combat step. End of combat step, you can still do ninjutsu stuff where you swap cards around, you're bringing them back to your hand. It's one of the really weird interactions with ninjutsu. Okay, you know what, Google. Come on, we could just use Google, right? Oh, somebody's already asked this, chat. Okay. Say I control a creature with first strike. Does that not get blocked and attacks are declared? Can I have it deal first strike damage before activating, resolving the keyword? Okay. Comprehensive rules say about ninjutsu, among other things. May be activated while a creature on the battlefield is unblocked. The creature with ninjutsu is put onto the battlefield unblocked. It will be attacking the same player or planeswalker as the creature that was returned to its owner's hand. since it's referencing in 509, which happens to be in the section on declare blocker step, let's see what the rule says. No, I know it can be done at end of combat. It has nothing to do with damage. It's just about if it was blocked or unblocked. That's it. So after blockers have been declared, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. It's a really weird mechanic that way, based on how it's worded. An attacking creature with one or more creatures declared as blockers for it becomes a blocked creature. One with no creatures declared as blockers becomes unblocked. This remains unchanged until the creature is removed from combat, an effect that says it becomes blocked or unblocked, or the combat phase ends, whichever comes first. Okay, we know all this. So yes, a creature which is attacking and unblocked stays that way until combat is over, which includes the step after all damage is dealt, but before your second main phase, unless something happens to it. Oh my god. You can ninjutsu out your ninja after regular combat damage has been dealt. Well, we know that. Or as you want to do after you're attacking unblocked creatures first strike, but before regular damage for double strike. This works. Oh, what? Oh, chat, this makes Rilsa so much better. The fuck? Juan, you got a smart cookie. Wow. I'm kind of blown away, actually. That's super dirty. That's super, super dirty. Okay, all right. So let's just like imagine this, right? So what does that mean? I mean, well, and look, like, no shame. This is weird shit. So even if there's a creature with first strike in combat, say one of your other creatures that got blocked, so you get to the first strike step, it actually wouldn't help, as who deals damage in the second step might actually... Wait. Oh, okay. Whoa, so wait. Oh, some of this stuff is kind of bending my brain right now. I think it's because I've been streaming for 2 hours. My brain is starting to melt. Okay. Even if a creature with first strike is in combat. So say one of your other creatures got blocked. So you do get a first strike step. It wouldn't help, as who deals damage in the second step actually doesn't really care whether the creatures have first strike. Yeah. And that step damage is dealt by creatures that have double strike, as well as creatures that didn't deal damage in the previous step. So if you ninjutsu after first strike damage is dealt, then your ninjutsu creature with first strike still deals regular combat damage. Wow. There are more important... Okay, we got to keep reading. Like, this is important. There are more applications of this subtlety, though, and what I suspect is the reason behind why the regular combat damage doesn't care about first strike directly. Giving first strike to an opponent's creature with the right timing doesn't prevent it from dealing its combat damage. Similarly, there are few instances where a creature could lose first strike, but no matter how you try to time it, that would not give it an opportunity for double strike. Back to your situation, it would also mean that you would get to deal damage with both creatures, even if the ninjutsu creature had first strike. That's so stupid, chat. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This means we can hit somebody with Rilsa's a big buffed up creature with Rilsa once we've completed a dungeon. We hit them with first strike and we sub it out for a creature with ninjutsu. We no longer have to make that choice between what we want to bring back, what we think can get through, what we want to attack with, and what we want to ninjutsu. That is disgusting. Completely cracked. This turns this deck into just like the 1000 IQ, you know, like I just want you to know that Snorlax is very pleased. And so is Grogu. Look how happy you made him. Look how happy you made him, Juan. You see that smile? You made the boy happy. Damn, that's super cool. Well, this has been kind of fun. I actually kind of like that I'm just hanging out with you guys right now, guys and gals. I say guys in the sort of gender neutral, most gender neutral of intentions, but yeah, y'all, gender neutral. It's kind of fun. Like usually, like there's something to do. There's a game to play, a game to cast. But like, how many we got people right now? How many of you are here? Like 7 of you here, just like hanging out and chatting about ninjutsu and its wild and weird interactions with Rilsa that just turns your stuff into death bombs. It's the way of the ninjutsu. Yeah. I mean, that's so good that I'm wondering what other cards with ninjutsu I have that, because like there's some really big, ninjas. Okay, like 5/5, where like that's 11 damage on a 1/1. If you swing in with like a thrumming bird and it's Rilsud, you hit them, um, and then you swap in a Dorkuchi Shadow Walker, you hit them for 11 damage. That's so savage. Yeah, Thanatos, thanks for joining us, man, and I appreciate you providing us a little challenge there with the rules stuff. I'm glad your L2 has picked up a new little bit of wisdom, and also thank you for your financial support. I really appreciate that. Means the world to me right now. Every little dollar, guys, is a big deal. Yeah, I I've just got a job recently, managed to finally get something, and it's gonna change my life for the better right now just to have a paycheck. But jobs are hard to get, and so yeah, thank you, Thanatos. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Appreciate your support. Um, so yeah, we're not playing. This is kind of interesting too. The Smoke Shaper. I always thought this card was pretty bad, but this card allows us to grant indestructibility to a creature that is being blocked. Damn, if Thanatos wasn't leaving right now, we could get his thoughts on some of these cards. We're also not playing Moonsnare Specialist. Part of it's because you don't want too many ninjas, right? You have to just have stuff that plays out, normal stuff that plays out, and isn't like reliant on ninjutsu to be okay. But like Ninja of the New Moon, man, that's crazy. You know, you just trigger on a 1/1 flyer, hit them, first strike, swap in the ninja, 6 damage. That's 12 damage for 4 mana. It's really good. There's also Skull Snatcher, which also could be part of this game plan too. I wonder if we have any, and I've actually never, I haven't really considered this one either, but with all the ninjas in the deck, this would probably be great, giving flying to all of them. Let's take a look at the list though. I've actually been thinking about this list quite a lot. I will be playing on a show on a YouTube channel that many of you are familiar with soon. I can't tell you what. It's going to be very exciting. And if you know what it is, if you think you know what it is, keep it to yourself. Don't ruin the surprise for everyone else. Um, and this is what I'm going to be playing. This is what I'm going to be playing. We want to give a good representation of all the different cool stuff in the format and all the amazing things that are available to us now. And and so um, so this is the deck that I've chosen, and I'm continuing to work on it. Derpy Panda, thank you so much for joining us and for all your contributions and questions, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, buddy. We're gonna make a quick change here. Siphon Mind is gonna come out. I really like Siphon Mind. It's one of the best cards in black, but we're actually gonna, on the recommendation of somebody in on YouTube, we're gonna swap this out for Monarch cards because Monarch is actually the two Monarch cards I want to play are Thorn, which is a human, so Path of Ancestry. Oh, Derpy, thanks for the fiver. I really You're the best. Thank you so much. And everybody's been so great today. It's been a really, really awesome and wholesome experience. I have a lot of editing to do after this actually to separate these three videos out. Um, yeah, so we want that one, and then we want the 4-mana blue one, which is Azure Fleet Admiral. Fleet. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we have it. Azure Fleet Admiral, because both of these have forms of evasion, and yeah, so I think that those are both really good. We're gonna have to find some cuts. The trouble is like I really want to lower the curve in the deck, not raise it, and so there's some like tension there. Um, but like Death Touch is relevant. It's got a big butt, so it can attack. It already has Death Touch, so we can like get in with ninjas. Reusing this with the ninjutsu is good too. Gives us like a form of vigilance. This one, when somebody else gets the monarch, it's unblockable, so we just like pump it up with Rilsa. I think there's a lot to like here. They're both humans as well, which is great. So I don't know what to cut though. I just never know what to cut with this deck. It's brutal. Could be that Shrieking Drake, which I have under ninjas, but ninjutsu is so good in this deck now that I know that like I don't think Shrieking Drake is gonna make the cut anymore. Like ninjutsu is way better than I thought it was before. I get all these arts looking the same here. Maybe some of these mana rocks come out too. I really like the sequence of going like turn 2 mana rock into turn 3 Aarakocra Steak or Vicious Battle Rager, turn 4 Rilsa. Because there's like one plan of the deck which is like evasive threats, ninjutsu, lots of game actions, hit, Rilsa, and then you like go harder. And then the other game plan is where you just like run out a really fast initiative on an empty board, and it's sick. And it is sick. So yeah, I could probably cut one of these. I think it's probably colored pips are pretty important in the deck, so I think it's going to be Guardian Idol. Everflowing Chalice is such an amazing recovery mechanic, and like you can tutor for it early as well. It's just a really good card. Guardian Idol making it 2/2 is good, but we have so many threats in the deck that we just don't need this. So with that, we open up another slot, and that allows us to have both the Monarch and the both Monarch cards in it. What else could we put in here? I think it's probably Changeling Outcast. I've wanted this card in the deck for a really long time. Yeah. There's some other ones in here that are also worth considering that I don't have, like the ninjas. There's more ninjas that I would like to play. I think Dorakuchi Shadow Walker is like pretty sick. Like black 5/5 is really strong. Not likely to die to anything. Let's see. I just wanted to say, Praxium Mogamesh sent me a message. So Thanatos in chat said, I think I need to make cuts, or I need to make cuts, but do you think I have enough artifacts for squid? And there's 91. Yeah, I think you have plenty. Yeah, so for those of you who may have joined later, this is the next Let's Build that's coming up is Squid Games. Masks. Squid Games. And I think this commander is like really sick. This is a really sick commander. So anyways, that's what I'm referring to with that. Okay. Let's pull up. Let's see. Oops. Oh my god, I've got way too many tabs. Yeah, okay, so we've got one. Oh, we don't have the slot anymore. Why don't we have the slot anymore? Oh, because I brought in the Changeling Outcast. Yeah, so what I'd really like to have in this list is like a nice suite of more one drops. I'd like to have, ideally, I would like to have, I don't know. Currently, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that can actually attack like right away that you can just play. Bone Picker is a one drop, but it's only a one drop when something has died. And we can make that happen. That's not a problem, but it's not a one mana play. So and Mistblade Shinobi is only one when you have another creature. Secret Door doesn't attack, it's just very good. But it's just very hard to make cuts in this deck because some of the cards like are drawing us cards and we kind of want that. So like Seagate Oracle. Seagate Oracle could potentially go. I've recently found that Audacious Thief and Jessian Thief are regularly like as good as Bob. Bob stands for Dark Confidant. Like my last game I played Jessian, or no, the game before that I played with Audacious Thief, I drew 7 cards off of that Audacious Thief. I just put it into play. I forged it up as a 4/4. People prioritized other things, and I just drew lots of cards. Yeah, Cloud Pirates is another option. Although I think that yeah, Cloud Pirates is an option. There's also like even better would be Triton Shore Stalker. Let's see if this works anymore. I think it's O can't, O block. Or blocked. That's the language now. Oh wait, what if we did function unblockable? Does that work? Ah, that's how you find it. Okay. Function unblockable with one of the independent things. Okay, and then let's do CMC equals 1. Yeah, so like Mistcloak Herald and Triton Shore Stalker and Tormented Soul. Like this package would be sweet if I could get all of these in here. I just think that like lowering the curve like that is great. Like all of these turned into a 3-power creature is just really strong. Unblockable creatures are really good. And actually, technically, Shore Stalker is just a better Changeling Outcast, isn't it? Yeah, because this is a rogue, so it still does the things we want. Oh, Changeling Outcast works with Smoke Shroud. The +1/+1 aura that comes back from the graveyard every time to give flying because it's a ninja. It is a ninja. Yeah, so that's the swap we'll make there. But these are all. I'm gonna put these in sideboard because I really want these in the deck. I think if we went up to like 9 1/1 evasive creatures, that would be good. It's just a matter of like how much stuff, because there's certain things that we're always going to play. Like, for example, the Monarch stuff is really good. We have like the more expensive Okiba Gang Shinobi. We have like the Edict creatures are one area where we could cut, but the problem is that I don't know. Like these allow us to like upgrade our creatures while also taking resources for the table, and they're amazing hits off Throne of the Dead 3. They're amazing. When you hit like Slum Reaper and it comes into play as like a 7 7/5 and you turn your 1/1 flyer into a 7/5 with hexproof and everybody sacks a creature, it's like very good. So like Throne of the Dead 3 is what makes me want to play that, Chain Devil, Fleshbag, even though they're kind of like control-y elements. And then like Gray Merchant is just great because we have so many pips in play and because you can flip it off Throne and you can ninjutsu it. There's just like tons of stuff. So there's like this whole upper part of the curve is kind of locked in. So the only places where I can really like make cuts are in places that I just like have no interest making cuts. You know, if we like let me give you all the list so you can look at it while we kind of work through this here. Um yeah, like all of these creatures are ones that I want. Like Repeat Venture is so gross in this deck. Like ETB Draw on a flyer is really good, and there's a couple that I'm missing here even. Seagate Oracle is pretty good, although Seagate Oracle could become an evasive creature. It's just that we don't have a ton of draw in this deck, you know? A lot of our power in the deck comes from the initiative in the command zone. And the initiative in the command zone means that while we might not have a lot of cards in hand because we like put them out onto the battlefield, we do make threats and we do put stuff into play. Like Throne of the Dead 3 is better than drawing a card. A 4/1 is better than drawing a card. Um, but it does concern me a little bit. Curfew is just another way to like reuse our like our ninjutsu creatures, our ETB creatures, our initiative, while also just being a 1 mana instant speed edict, mass edict. I have Debt to the Kami in here because I think like every deck needs a couple of good ways to blow up an Oubliette or a Pestilence. Although I don't think we care about Pestilence in this deck. They probably don't kill Rilsa because it's a 5 toughness creature, and then we just hit them for 7 with Rilsa. We just pump her and hit them hard, and then they can't use Pestilence anymore. Um, like all of this stuff is locked in pretty well. Rotten Reunion is really good because if you put the 2/2s out, then you can give them +5/+0 with Rilsa, and then like they never kill these things, right? Because they're just like they're gonna die, they're decayed. So I chose this one for their graveyard hate slot, but this could be the other ninja, the Skull Snatcher, right? The Skull Snatcher. Or let's see, it wasn't here. It was yeah, I mean it's a 1 mana 2/1 that exiles cards from people's graveyard. It's just that it's not instant speed. So it's like this doesn't really do exactly what you want it to do when you want it. So it's a little bit less appealing in that sense. Other stuff here, like it's possible. Secret Door is so good. It's like tutorable Trinket Mage. It's like it's a great mana sink. It's an awesome card. It doesn't attack. There is that. Fate's Reversal is also a card that seems kind of grindy, but it's just like so good with so many other parts of our deck. All this life gain is stuff that we want because these are like dual function creatures. We don't cut the ninjas. Could be the ramp. Could be going down on ramp a little bit. Tortex is another one, although Tortex is fantastic in this deck because you take your shit creatures. No, they're not shitty. They're just like they're lower impact, and you swap them out for high impact stuff in the graveyard. Just feels like a very good card in the deck. And then our removal we can't touch. Like this is already too thin, in my opinion, personally. $34 lands. Yeah, I don't know. It's really tight. It's a little tough. I could see Tortured Existence, Fate Reversal. These are ways that venture us through the initiative, and that's really important. But maybe they're just not as important as just having some cheap, unblockable threats that we can just like run out on turn 1 and 2. I don't know. I think regardless, I'm gonna wrap things up. For today's stream. I'll get to see my eyes here for a moment. Been hiding behind these douchey aviators here. thought it was kind of fun. Um, anyways, I want to thank you all, every one of you who stuck around for the stream today. Everybody who's donated and supported the channel. It really means the world to me. It's just fantastic to see people appreciating the work that we're doing, Clay and I. And yeah, if you do want to support us, if you haven't yet so far and you feel compelled to and it's within your budget, there is a join function there for YouTube where you can join as a YouTube member with 3 different tiers at all different levels of affordability and a bunch of different benefits for those who do, which you can see in the YouTube there. Yeah, Juan Garcia, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the ninjutsu tech. That is so very good in Rilsa. So very good. So cool. Yeah, if you haven't yet, click that like button if you enjoyed this content. Do the free thing. It's super easy. It's always amazing how many, how many videos out there have tens of thousands of views, but only like a fraction of them have likes. It's just a good habit to get into as a person is to like content that you even remotely enjoyed, just to support people. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. There's a little bell icon that you can set there as well, so that you can get notifications about when I'm going live at times that are unscheduled. So if I don't have it on the calendar, that's one of the ways you can catch unscheduled games when I'm just going live for fun. And I recommend you do that. If you're not part of the Discord, go into the description below and there's a link there. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Connoisseurs of Fine Common Cardboard, you have a great rest of your night. Thank you. And we'll catch you on the flip side.